I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Barton watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the morning show TV show on MSNBC. Of course, they have been at war with Donald Trump for some time, and man, oh man, they did something today that was hilarious. They talked about how they went ahead and met Donald Trump, and they want to reestablish their relationship. Now, if you recall, back in 2015, 2016, they were all cushy, lovey-dovey, calling Trump, giving him all kinds of airtime. Oh, Trump calls him on the phone, have him on the show. And they absolutely helped him win. Not that Trump needed more, name ID, but he had a lot of free earned media, especially compared to all the candidates. So, so much about politics is who you know, what you know, etc. So, or if you know the candidate. And so Trump, big celebrity, very famous businessman, name is on all these buildings and stuff throughout these years. He's a pop culture icon. People had him on TV shows and movies and all kinds of different stuff. And he had his television show, The Apprentice, which I love The Apprentice, by the way. And, so he really did not need help with earned media, but he was on Morning Joe all the time. And then they had a falling out, and he said some stuff about Mika and, Joe and Mika, how they have their frisky little thing together or whatever. So there was a really funny SNL skit about them and their kind of weird relationship. But yeah, so then they had a falling out, and you guys know that they just think Trump was full on Hitler, or at least that's what they were telling their audience. And now it's like, okay, we went to Mar-a-Lago. It's bizarre, and it had me so tickled. I knew that I had to talk to about it today with you guys. I also want to play this video from Miss Staton King, Angela Staton King, that was pretty darn impressive, I thought. So she talked, somebody arranged it on, like, she went on a podcast, so someone cut the stuff together and put some music and stuff behind it. So it's pretty dramatic and stuff. But the things she says in it are so great. It's such a great video, with her advocating for Trump and explaining like the things that he's done throughout the years, where they should dispel a lot of the rumors or feelings that people have about him being a racist and stuff. But then she also went into some stuff about abortion that was really, really good. So I want to go ahead and talk about that today. And also a lot of stuff going on. You had the Lincoln Riley trial that's going on right now. I mentioned it on Friday a little bit, and the information coming out is just wild. And the idea that Kamala Harris thought that she could win focusing on, false miscarriage stories and just totally ignore people like Lincoln Riley is incredible. But one thing that is going on right now is that there's a trend on TikTok with many people talking about how Lincoln Riley fought for 17 minutes. And so they'll just put on the screen, she fought for 17 minutes. Don't tell me that I didn't vote for women's rights. And it's really that simple, because a lot of people, were fighting for their safety, the safety of their children, their safety of their daughters, to secure our border. Not everyone has aspirational dreams to have an abortion, So we'll talk about all those things and other things. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktonews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktonews.com /donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. If you guys want to send super chats, you guys can send super chats, or you can send stars for watching on Facebook. Thank you to those who are watching live and those who write in the chat. And those to you who will watch it back later and leave comments and all that stuff. It does really help with the show and getting more eyes and so on. I do want to encourage you, if you are not a follower, or maybe you do think that you're subscribed or like the channel or whatever, or following, would be on like Facebook. Make sure that you are. Just take a minute and make sure that you are subscribed, and make sure that you do hit like the notification bell and so on, because I know sometimes social media companies do start to unfollow folks from people, or they think they're cleaning up different accounts or whatever, or you might be subscribed, or you don't have the notification bells. I see comments all the time from folks like, oh, they assumed I haven't posted in a while because I just didn't pop up in their feed at all. And you guys know that I do it like every day, whether it's shorts, or posting, videos on Facebook or YouTube, or just streaming. I do a lot of content. So if you're not seeing me, that's a really big issue. That's, with the social media companies. So I'm out here doing my darndest. I know you guys are out here trying. So just make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you guys are hitting the notification bells, because sometimes they do try to separate us. So got a super chat with one of my, oh gosh, I gotta change my settings because that is really small to me. But it's love it here. Thank you, Shantae Holmes. You are often here watching live or watching it back, and I appreciate you. Let me see if I can change my banners real quick, because I accidentally had changed them, and I don't like this blue background, and it's kind of small. So let me see if I can change my settings really quick. Nope, that is wrong. We want my brand color to be black, and we want it to be bigger. Classic. Maybe let's try it again. See if it pops up normal. I don't know if that's normal. I don't think that's normal, but I think it's usually red. Is it not red usually? I think it's usually red. Oh, I'll have to figure it out later. But anyway, um, I plan to have like some deals and stuff, like with some of my books. I do have some in stock. Like, feel free if you guys just want to go to Amazon and get the stuff on Amazon. And of course, if you want Kindle books, you'll have to go on Amazon. But as far as some physical copies, if people would like them signed and stuff, I want to make that available. Now, if there's a lot of people who want stuff, I will. Some stuff I am out of stock on, so I may have to order them, get them to me, and then send them out. And so if that's the case, I'll let you guys know. But I'll have some like deals, like if you buy 2 books or something like that. So I'll have that done soon for people. I guess if people have all their kind of Black Friday deals and Cyber Mondays or whatever. So I'll have that out to you guys soon. And I'm sure my youngest sister, who does all the art, will probably have some deals too. So I'll make sure, I'll ask her if I could get a special code for you guys, because I love you. That's what I'll try to do. Besides her paintings, she does have those text portraits that are really, really neat. So anyway, let's hop to it. So Morning Joe is so freaking funny. Like I said, this had me tickled today. I was laughing out loud as I was taking my sister to work, and she came downstairs, and I was just giggling. And because I don't did you guys hear Charlemagne? And I think maybe I brought this up, but Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, he brought up the fact that the election is over and now there's all these people who are calling him fascist and all this stuff. And then they're all like, oh, it'll be okay. Like, oh, they're kind of like, where's that energy at? And Charlemagne was also responsible for calling him a fascist. Now, I absolutely do not believe that Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club knows what a fascist is. No, nor do I believe that he would be able to explain how Donald Trump is a fascist. And most people who use that term use phrases and quotes from Trump that are out of context, like bloodbath, or even how he come after like opponents or whatever. you know um Donald Trump has proven when he was in office. Now I guess people can flip a switch and decide to do things differently, but his record shows that he didn't take all kind of power and authority during his presidency, especially like during COVID. He could have did vaccine mandates and coerced businesses and all this stuff to get the jab and whatnot. He didn't do that. He didn't do martial law when there was a BLM protest. Maybe he should have. I don't know, but he didn't. He didn't. He was saying, if you want help from the National Guard, you need to tell me. You need to help me. If you want help, we will come and help you, but you got to help me. Blue cities, please ask me for help. He didn't take Tom Cotton's advice and go in, guns a blazing and basically take over and restore law and order, whatever. Maybe that was a bad call, but he always kind of nudged away from going tyrant. So yeah, the stuff that they say about Trump is just silly. It's ridiculous. But they don't just like, it's kind of weird that people are kind of backing away. They said that this is how they felt. They said that they were so concerned about him. They believe that he was such a bad guy, and now all of a sudden it seems like he's just not that bad. What's up with that? And what's up with that is that people were trying to win an election. They were willing to say anything and do anything to win. And it's really that simple. It's really that simple. And I believe now when it comes to Morning Joe, I do believe that they are probably very deranged people. I do believe that they have probably, to some regard, there's a lot of bad blood because they were going to Mar-a-Lago. They were friends with Trump and they were lovey-dovey on the phone and all this stuff. So they had a relationship and they had to flip that for the election and ratings. And Trump did say some pretty like personal things about Mika, so I can understand the scorn from these people. But at the same time, a lot of the things that they were saying was just insane and obviously not true. So now they have shifted and now they are, hey, we are going to be all, let's open the line of communication. And you can say, well, they're journalists. Why wouldn't they want to open the lines of communication? Sometimes you have, people who might go to interview a dictator or whatever, and look him in the eye and score that interview, and that's good ratings. But that's a, no responsible journalist would just say no to an opportunity like that. um but it's not that deep. Like, Trump isn't Putin or something. um I think it's mostly just they want that line of access because it'll be good for their ratings. Maybe they can have some kind of sphere of influence. So, if you're shut out, then you don't get a seat at the table. So, all kind of rational things would have you, want to reach out. But I just, can't be like, let me go make peace with Hitler. Let me go have coffee with him and just, air my grievances and restore our relationship. I just wouldn't do that. So I think mostly with Morning Joe, this crew, Mika and Joe, that they were just saying garbage. They were just saying garbage. So it's funny because they flipped all of a sudden. Trump isn't even back in the office yet. Oh, he hasn't stepped back in the, well, he did step back in the Oval Office to meet Joe Biden and stuff, but he hasn't, had to go through his inauguration. Believe me, I'm going to be there or plan to be there, when that day happens. He hasn't gone through all that yet. And they're already calling to establish that relationship. So I think they're so full of crap. So I'm about to play their video for you a little before and after or current, But I also think it's a bad idea for Trump to let them back in too. So I got finger pointing on both sides right now. And for Trump, it's just mostly unwise to let them back in. But these people are shameless. They're shameless. Okay, so appreciate the little comparison to the here, to the then and now.
And then he says that the news network that is most critical of him should be taken off the air. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
So she says, why wouldn't we? Maybe because you guys compared him to Hitler. Maybe because you guys tried to say that he had a Nazi rally. Like one of his last major rallies in New York. You compare and so stupidly compared it to like a Hitler rally. Why? Because Hitler had a rally there once. A lot of people go to Madison Square Garden, including Democrats. So they're just so dishonest. Like, I can understand why you'd want the lines of communication to open up. I can understand why you'd want to go there, why you'd want him to call on your TV show. But saying things like, oh, we talked about political retribution and against the political opponents. So what was the conversation? How they've been doing that to Trump nonstop? Because Donald Trump, when he had the opportunity, when he was president, what did he do? He showed mercy to Hillary Clinton. Now, the question is he going to continue being merciful for the good of the country? Probably. Would he? Is it maybe a mistake because other people clearly didn't show him mercy? I don't know. To do that tit for tat, like mutually assured destruction, is that the route to go? But like they never want to take a W. Like Donald, like she said, they talked about abortion. Mika, what the heck do you have to say about abortion to Donald Trump? First of all, Joe, are you just like I know you kind of left the Republican Party, but these people who go all on full TDS, who were on the right at some point, they just abandon all sorts of values that they previously had. So why, Donald Trump moved so far to the left on this issue, and for folks, for me, and I mean, you guys have watched, if you've watched me for a while, you know how I've complained, how upset I was with different moves that they made and so on. And it bothers me so much because it's still not enough for these people. It's still not enough. Donald Trump saying that he's not going to do anything for the abortion pills, like to limit those. That's the number one way that people have abortions. That's so that's still not enough for you people. Him saying that, oh, I think heartbeat bills are terrible, and that's still not enough for you people. That's still not enough. Him saying, hey, if your state wants to choose to have abortion up until like 9 months, I don't like it, but if you guys want to do that, that's your choice. That's still not enough for you people. What conversation did you have, Mika? What conversation? And they're like, well, there's things that we disagreed with. I bet he didn't say a single darn thing to you that wasn't sensible, that wasn't reasonable, or should have been reasonable to you. I bet there wasn't a darn thing, Mika and Joe. I bet there wasn't a darn single thing. Because when you start saying like, oh, you said you was gonna be a bloodbath, and oh, you said you're gonna do stuff with protests. You guys taking everything out of context. Like, if they started bringing up that garbage to Trump, like, what, I just can't imagine, like, what was the look on his face? Like, for real? You come in my home and you still spew this garbage? I want to hear Trump's side of the story. I want to hear Trump explain what happened. And knowing Trump, they're probably going to get on his nerves, and he's probably going to tell some funny story, at a event, a thank you rally, or I don't know, fundraiser, random press conference. I don't know, but I want to hear his side of their conversation, and I want to hear all the things that he wants to say about them. But if he's going to revert and allow them to have access and space to him or whatever, because there's like legitimate journalists. Morning Joe is a trash show. It's a trash show with some of the most biased, ridiculous people. And it's a ridiculous network, okay? I'm not saying that he shouldn't send surrogates or whatever on there, maybe sometimes to dunk on them, someone of like Scott Jennings caliber. But I don't even know if is Scott even a surrogate for like he's like the resident person on CNN who's like a Republican, but I don't know if he gets like paid or something to go there, and or if he's just the person who they pay, CNN has and pays. But it's a bad idea to let them in. Now, Bob Woodward, if you guys recall, he said some nice things about Trump, and and Trump let him in. And then he wrote a book trashing Trump that did quite a bit of damage, I would say, in 2020, and reported things that were very unflattering, and on the surface level, especially like Trump had said something about like downplaying COVID a bit because he didn't want the public to panic. And that to some degree sounds kind of reasonable, not like deny the science or whatever was happening, but just to not, be like, oh, we're going to get through this. Oh, you don't go up there and be like, hey, everybody's going to die. I'm the president, freak out. You don't do that. You don't do that. But the media reports surrounding stuff like that were just so intense. And so but he just gave Bob Woodward so much access. And the thing about Trump is that if you flatter him a lot, he'll let you in. And he needs like better discernment, and Susie Wiles, maybe she just needs to guard him better or whatever. But I just wouldn't entertain Joe and Mika. And I know they were friends, or known each other for a while, but I just don't see how you go back from all the stuff that they said. You like, I know Trump, he was sitting with Joe Biden. He's like, politics is tough. It's real tough. It's a nasty business or whatever. And just, but if it were me, like I know some stuff people do and it kind of is what it is, but to slander my name and to lie on me, I just wouldn't want to like let that go. Like you can let the sun go down in your wrath and not hold on your rage or whatever, but you still move on informed of what they did, and you limit your access, and you definitely limit your trust in good, I was going to say goodwill. I don't know if good. I mean, you can always do the right thing towards someone who's maybe done you wrong, but they're not entitled to you. They're not entitled to you. So I just would not invite Joe and Mika back to the White House. I'm not to the White House, to Mar-a-Lago. No. Like flashback. This wasn't that long ago. The sort of reporting that was on MSNBC.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they were playing, pushing, which we went through that article last week from different swing voters or independents, and they were saying like reasons why they voted for Trump or whatever. And I think someone was like the Madison Square Garden rally. I think that was the reason why someone decided to vote for him, or maybe to sit out, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, because people just couldn't stand all the lies and stuff that were going on about him. Now it could be reversed, because some of them did decide not to vote for him, but most of them either voted for third party or decided to vote for him. But it was just a crazy coverage. Now, you guys know that my sister worked for the Trump campaign. She was the head of like urban engagement. She was there at this rally. She was there at the rally. And it was nice. And there was a lot of hoopla about that one comedian who made a joke, which, by the way, there is some kind of like trash problem with Puerto Rico. So it was like a newsy kind of joke that a lot of people, I guess, didn't get, or too many people took offense toward, and it was a joke. I wouldn't have booked him, and it distracted a lot from the actual event. But again, it's silly to make a news report. This is all the stuff that Hitler did. This is the stuff that Hitler, did at this rally. And Trump is bad because he's having this rally here. And the stuff that they're talking about out of context with Trump and using the military and political opponent. Like I went back, and at first I didn't really look at the what they were claiming about him using the military or whatever, because I just figured it was silly and they were wrong. I just figured, but then I decided to go like look up the context recently, and he was talking about like if protesters like go crazy or something, and don't they know that there were violent protesters when he was inaugurated the last time? Like, come on. And he wanted the National Guard to be activated when he did the January 6th thing. Anyway, he was like, "This is a lot of people coming. I want to make sure that there's enough troops there." So And to say, oh, Hitler's bad, and oh, but Trump's bad too because he wants mass deportation. These people don't belong here. It is not unkind. Someone broke our laws. They came here illegally. They broke our laws. They disrespected the sovereignty of our nation. And you guys think it's mean because we're booking them a free ticket home? A free ticket home instead of throwing him in Guantanamo Bay or something like that? Or Gitmo or whatever? You don't belong here. You don't belong here. But Trump is crazy if he allows these people in. Now, sometimes Trump, he lets folks in and entertains them a little bit, and then he shuts them down to troll them. After Donald Trump won in 2016, he was entertaining Mitt Romney for Secretary of State. And he there's a picture of Trump and Romney out to dinner, and Romney, they're both smiling, but the smile on Romney's face just looks like I'm in hell. Like the things I'm doing and putting myself through for this position and compromising myself, but I'm going to do it because, I have no real spine. It's just a really funny picture if you don't know what I'm talking about. But let me see if I can find it right now. But he wasn't really, to my knowledge, thinking about Mitt Romney being Secretary of State, and was stringing him along a little bit. And I found it. Let me share my screen real quick. Yeah, he was just as I said, he was just messing with them, I guess. So again, maybe he's messing with Mika and Joe a bit. And if that's the case, cool. I'm good with that. Oh, hold on. I opened up a new window. But it's not letting me do anything without the subscriber thing. Let me go back. So if he's just messing with him, that's one thing, but he cannot let them be another Bob Woodward situation. He cannot let them be another Bob Woodward. But yeah, the look on his face. But I thought it was funny how shameless these people are. It's funny, but it's sad. Again, Joe is like really disappointing. Morning Joe was never my show or whatever, but there's people who are on different networks who say they were Republican or conservative and whatnot, and they've shifted so much on the issues, just, I don't know, to get along with their peers who also don't like Donald Trump, and they let themselves morph into these monsters or whatever. Like Pete Hegseth, who's the nominee right now for Department of Defense. There's different Republicans or conservatives or people who claim to be conservative who are, anti-Trump folks. Anti-Trump folks who endorsed him for Senate and other stuff like that. But now he's just so terrible. And they're running stories about, his Christian Cross saying he's a right-wing nationalist, white supremacist, all kinds of inflammatory garbage. I just can't go. If it was me, I just couldn't go back away from that and just be cool with you and just, we could be cordial if like we had to in a business sense or something like that, but I'm not going to invite you into my home and have coffee with you after you've compared me to Hitler. I just wouldn't do that, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's setting them up for a big troll. You guys can let me know what you think. Do you think he's setting them up for some kind of big troll where he's gonna do some kind of big monologue about Mika, and just go in on them? Or do you think that he's, if you stroke his ego a little bit, he lets you in and then they're eventually just gonna backstab him? He needs to be careful. He really needs to be careful. Anyway, let's move on. I want to show you guys this video of Angela Staton King that I saw on TikTok, and somebody it's from this podcast, and someone arranged it so well, and she said so many things that were really, really great. It's a really good advocate video for Donald Trump. And she also says some really great stuff in relation to abortion as well, like toward the end of the video. So it's kind of lengthy, but it's really well worth watching. And I wanted to share it with you guys because, again, it has a lot of great information that I think you guys would probably like to share with people who, say that Trump was a racist and, there's stuff like that, because she really lays out a good case for him not being one.
Told me, they say you hear what people say, but you watch what they do. We've been hearing what the Democrats say for so long, and it sound good and it feel good. But we watching what they do, and they ain't doing shit. We hear what Trump say, it sound crazy. But when I watch what Trump do, and I go back and I look at real facts about how this man went to court every single day with Michael Jackson, how him and Staton King was super, super cool, how this man was on the Wu-Tang Clan album, how when Jennifer Hudson's family was murdered, he put them up in Trump Tower for 6 months, protected them, didn't charge him a dime. How he sent his private jet to go get Nelson Mandela out of prison. How he gave Rainbow Push and Jesse Jackson $1 million to get started, to get activated.
Oh, no. I don't know why I did that. Why I cut it short. Hold on. Not sure why I did that. Okay. I'll play it from TikTok. Sorry, we were just getting into it. I don't always like to play it from TikTok because it gets out of sync a little bit, but at least I guess you'll know where I got it from.
Me kill Patrick, pardons to restart. I hear what they say. You hear what people say, but you watch what they do. We've been hearing what the Democrats say for so long, and it sound good and it feel good. But we watching what they do, and they ain't doing shit. We hear what Trump say, it sound crazy. But when I watch what Trump do, and I go back and I look at real facts about how this man went to court every single day with Michael Jackson, how him and Staton King was super, super cool, how this man was on the Wu-Tang Clan album, how when Jennifer Hudson's family was murdered, he put them up in Trump Tower for 6 months, protected them, didn't charge him a dime. How he sent his private jet to go get Nelson Mandela out of prison. How he gave Rainbow Push and Jesse Jackson $1 million to get started, to get activated in the black community. How he gave me and Kwame Kilpatrick pardons to restart. I hear what people say and I watch what they do. I hear people saying they mad at Trump about the Central Park 5, and I get that. But then I know Trump passed the First Step Act, which done freed close to 20,000 people to this day, including Big Meech getting out on some of that sentencing reduction. That ain't got nothing to do with Kamala though. That's Trump in the First Step Act. But then I hear what Biden's saying, but I know Biden responsible for the 94 crime bill and the crack cocaine disparity, the thing that took all the real niggas off the streets. This is what Trump's First Step Act was in retrospect to that. Trump's First Step Act overturned that 94 crime bill. That's why we see all the real ones come home. That's why we stuck with a generation of Lil Nas X.
Chills on my back right now.
All of this was strategic. Wipe all the real men off the street, push this agenda. Because if the real men were in the home, we wouldn't see this like this. So you watched your mama be this pillar of strength. You modeling behavior, go back to psychology. And then we watching agendas on TV. Unfortunately, the Democrat Party of the day ain't the same Democrat Party that grandma done raised us on. A lot of us is Democrat because that's what grandma done was on. We're going to be honest. We don't even know why we Democrat. That's just what we on because we black. Grandma done said it. The policies have changed. Times have changed.
We cannot be educated on abortion and Margaret Sanger and the racism in abortion and vote for it. You can't say Black Lives Matter and vote to kill the Black life that you create and then be mad at white people. Black women, we so stuck up in this feminism with having a choice that we got to feel liberated that we don't even realize the consequences of our actions. Like, we want to run around here and call a man a deadbeat if he don't want the baby, but bitch, you can go kill the baby and get a pat on the back when you don't want it. And at the same time, they screaming equal rights. They don't really want equal rights. They want control. And I don't want that much control. I don't want the right to kill my children. And if people gonna hate me for that, oh well. But you know, people waking up now. But I think what the issue is, again, we so stuck on racism. Like, they use this whole racism thing to try to control us when, you know, if I'm gonna be 100% honest, everybody that I know that was murdered, that I love, that was taken away from me, was taken away from me by somebody Black. Like, I don't even know nobody that was killed by a white police officer. I'm not taking away from that. I'm not saying that it don't deserve justice. But I'm saying, on one hand, we get totally upset and blame it at the hands of racism. Then on the other hand, it's the same act. It's just by one person with light colored skin and the other person with dark colored skin. One thing my grandma told me, they say, you hear what people say, but you watch what they do. We've been hearing what the Democrats say for so long, and it sounds good and it feel good, but we watching what they do.
Yeah, so that was a really good video, but a lot of great information in there about different things that Trump did for different people out of the kindness of his heart. And I just, like, why would he do for so much for so many Black people if he was some kind of gigantic racist, you know? And not saying that racists can't do nice things, but it just doesn't correlate with the character that he's had throughout the years. And I'm not saying that he can't say racially divisive things, but I mean, there's a lot of things that people claim that he said. I can point to you like racist stuff that Joe Biden has said, like absolutely, like at the top of my head. I could provide a list, guys. And some of the stuff that people say about Trump, it's he said, she said, or they'll mention Central Park 5. I'm like, how is that racist? They're like, well, if he said that he wanted them killed and he said all this stuff in the article, you probably didn't read it, man. You probably didn't read it, and you're missing a lot of context for what was going on at the time. I wrote an article about that at blacktnews.com where I gave some context, but I also like just wrote out Trump's actual article. So I recommend people go to my website and go read that to get a little more information. I'm not going to get off topic or whatever, but the part that I also thought was very good from Angela here was when she said, you know, women, they don't want equal rights, they want control. And she said, I don't want to have the right or the power to kill my baby. She's like, I don't want that choice. And I thought that was pretty powerful. It made me think of this of C.S. Lewis. And he had talked about how our desires, it's not that really that they're too strong. It's that they're actually, we're really weak-willed. He said, indeed, if we consider the unblushing promises of reward and the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the Gospels, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures fooling about, with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. We're far too easily pleased. You know, I was on a live last night, and we were talking to, the subject was abortion and stuff, and it's really kind of amazing, you know, different people's perspectives. And we talked to people from the UK, and they were kind of like, it's amazing how different our laws were, because someone from Australia got on and someone from the UK got on, and they said, we're all scared that's what's going to happen. What happened in the US is going to happen over here. And I'm like, like there's some states that have restricted abortion, but there's states that have like no gestational limits. And they all thought that was horrific. And I'm like, we are pretty bad as far as the the world, whatever. But I had a conversation with one person, and I brought up the turnaway study, and there's a lot of issues with the turnaway study, FYI, which I do address in my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, but they do bring up the turnaway study a lot in media. There's a bunch of articles about it when it came out and stuff. So I mentioned the turnaway study that it follows like it follows a bunch of women through a period of 5 years from being turned away from abortion and people who like got one and stuff. So 96%, or I think it's 96-95% of women who were turned away from abortion, like they were going to get one and they couldn't get one for whatever reason, they found that they did not regret that they didn't kill their children. Right? So they didn't have any regrets about that they kept them. They most of these women keep their children, they form bonds with them, and I'm glad I didn't kill my baby feeling. They measure that off of like 5 years, but a third of the women, it was like a week. It was like, whoo, glad I didn't do that, I guess. So someone turned around and was like, well, the turnaway study says that women who have abortions, they don't regret having the abortions, and that's incompatible with what you just said. I said, no, it's not. It's not. The study says both things. Sure. It says that women who had abortions go on to say that they don't regret it or whatever. And again, the study follows after 5 years. There's some women I've talked to who didn't really feel out all of their feelings on abortion and what they did to their child until years later. Like people not realizing like the different self-abuse that they did was in relation to the abortion that they had years ago, or why they got sad on Mother's Day and other things like that, around the time when their child would have been born, or a time around when they were conceived, and so on, and how it altered or influenced the relationships that they had with other children that they had. Women can have all kinds of regret 5 years down, past 5 years or whatever. Also, regret, it can come in waves. You can be sad and doubt your decisions one day, and but there's women who do have abortions and they do feel relief, like about certain things that maybe like, oh, I'm glad I'm not tied to the baby daddy. I'm glad that he's not in my life. So even though you may not even be crazy about having an abortion, women can still experience relief. But the reality is that they will convince themselves that they did the right thing. And that's probably not too crazy for you guys to understand. I mean, there's people who there's one person who I follow. They were a pro-choice atheist, and then they came to Christ, and so I was so happy. But she was coerced into having an abortion when she was young by her parents, and Planned Parenthood lied to her, said that she wouldn't be able to see like her baby's heartbeat, hear her baby's heartbeat or whatever. And so even though she was coerced to it and didn't want to have an abortion, wanted to keep her baby, she had the abortion. And then ultimately she decided that, she wanted to have a career at Planned Parenthood. So she ended up, flipping her viewpoint when she got pregnant again, and then she got a sonogram, and it was about the same time when she had an abortion, and she heard the baby's heartbeat, and she's like, oh my gosh, these people lied to me. So then she decided to be like a thorn in their side, and so she's a kick butt, pro-life activist, and I really appreciate her. But people cope in their minds. There's plenty of pro-life women that I'm aware of and know who had an abortion, and after they had their abortion, they were very gung-ho about abortion and wanted to have careers in helping other women have abortion, and eventually it weighed down on them what they had done. So again, after 5 years, people could definitely change their mind. Plus, I don't know how many people would just outright admit that that it wasn't a bad decision to have an abortion. A lot of people obviously do, but I've had a lot of conversations with people who've had abortions, and the more they talk, I never believe them. There's always such aggression and sadness I just don't believe them. But regret isn't why, like, people say, hey, don't have an abortion. Like, that's not why I do what I do, or other activists do what I do, because women might feel bad about it. We believe it's a human rights violation, and that's why we don't want it to be legal. But the point of me bringing up the Turnaway study and so on, and this C.S. Lewis quote, in relating it what Angela said, is that there's a lot of women out there who are being negatively influenced by having this opportunity to kill their child, when in reality is, if we didn't give them this option to do it, it would be less cruel, because not only would they likely keep their baby, not only would they likely raise their baby, not only would they likely love and bond with their baby would be alive. Their baby would be alive. So the other option is to let them do what they do, and maybe they won't regret it, though, you know, it does impact your mental health and other things like that, whether you regret it or not, data to support that. But you've still taken a life. So as she said, I don't want that option to kill that child. And some people were like, oh, well, they should still have the choice. Maybe you can do what you want to do. Okay, but you really shouldn't. If we limited abortion, if we banned it, that would be the moral thing for our society to do. Not only because we would be preserving that life, protecting that right to life, but also because we would be protecting that woman basically from themselves. But they shouldn't have a right. But I would argue they don't have a specialized right to kill their children. They don't have that. But especially not a natural right to do that. We have a natural right to life, and you have a right to not be killed, and the government is supposed to secure our inalienable rights. So someone the other day told me, actually it was this morning and then they blocked me, but I'm going to reply to them on a different account, so I'll get to them later. But they said the government has no right. They have no right to stop a woman from having an abortion. And that's not true. They have the obligation, I would say, to preserve life, to protect life, just like you wouldn't conspire, or you're not allowed to conspire to unalive your newborn child. The government would protect them, and if you went ahead and killed them, there'd be repercussions for you. They need to keep that same energy for the child in your womb. They need to keep that same energy. They didn't forcibly impregnate you. There's not like a machine that's like them hooking you up and making you gestate the baby. They don't have you held down, by some rope and some chains. You made the baby with the act of procreation. You are naturally gestating that child. If they say, no, you cannot take pills to suffocate and starve that child, or no, you cannot have some kind of procedure where they suck them through a little teeny tube, or when they rip them to pieces, pull them apart, crush their skull. No, if they say, no, you cannot kill them, you are not a victim. You are not a victim because you're not allowed to kill someone. It's so stupid. You are not a victim because you're not allowed to kill someone. No one is committing an act of force against you because the government has an obligation to protect life from an unjust killing. You sound like a clown. You sound like a clown, guys. But yeah, I think what Angela said was like so good. I don't even know if she realized how good the thing that she said was. Yeah, I thought it was great, that whole segment, but when she got to that part, I was like, oh my gosh, it's really, really good. That's really, really good. But moving on, there is this trial of Laken Riley going on, and I've mentioned this a few times. I mentioned this at the top of the hour. And this is something, people are saying online right now, like on TikTok, and it's something, please keep repeating, because people say you didn't vote for women's rights. Laken Riley fought for her life. And if you don't know, Laken Riley was a young woman who was killed by an illegal alien. She was out jogging, and this illegal alien was looking for women to rape. And Laken was like, "Ain't gonna be me." And she fought and she fought, and she was able to fight, and had his DNA in her fingernails and all that stuff. And she fought for 17 minutes, and he ended up bashing her head until she, died. There's a 911 call, and you can hear her kind of gasping for life in it very faintly. And it's hard to listen to. And you can go listen to it at your own peril, I guess. I just wanted to warn you. This illegal alien was in Manhattan, and apparently had some kind of special program that they got to use our taxpayer dollars to be flown to Georgia. Now, you're already in the country. You're already up pretty far because you're in New York. And now you get to get a ride to Georgia, to where he then committed the crime. Do you know how expensive flights are for like an average person to go see family? Especially like we're getting to the holiday season, and when it gets busy, like stuff gets pretty expensive. I don't fly a lot. Maybe I'm sure that'll change hopefully soon in life as, things start progressing for me or whatever. But usually I'll drive somewhere, but I don't fly that often. But flights are expensive. They get high. And people need to go see their families for Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that stuff. You can't go ask like, hey, the government to foot the bill for that. Just think about how much money we spend and blow it on people who shouldn't be here. And they help facilitate this man's travel to where he ultimately stalked and killed this woman. So when people say that you didn't vote for women's rights because you didn't support reproductive freedom, say no, Laken Riley. I voted for women's rights. I voted for women like her. Women who the Democrats don't want to utter their name. I voted for her. I voted in memory of her. I voted because I don't want there to be more victims like her. I want to protect myself, other women in my life, other men, I mean, because men are in danger of that particular thing happening as much as women, obviously, but people can still hurt men, rob them, etc. There's all kinds of crime going on. There are women out here who are victims. And these people committing the crimes, I'm not saying there's not other crime in the country and other heinous things don't happen. But when people try to say, well, there's comparatively to the population, these illegals aren't committing those kind of crimes at the same kind of rate, or it's a lower rate, they shouldn't be here. That is a totally unpersuasive argument. They shouldn't be here. This shouldn't have happened to Laken Riley. And her family knows and has stated, like, if something was done about the border, maybe she'd be alive today. So Kamala Harris, I don't think I could be wrong. You guys can fact check me. I've just, I've seen a lot of election coverage. Yeah, I haven't watched every Kamala Harris rally though. And I've seen a lot of her interviews, and there's a lot of clips or whatever that have gone around of stuff that I didn't watch all the context of stuff too. So I'm pretty confident when I can this is a claim, I guess, that she hasn't uttered Riley's name, at least not brought it up herself, but maybe she has. Maybe she has. But clearly not her focus. Her focus were stories about Amber Thurman Amber Thurman, woman also from Georgia, who in how Kamala tells a story, women are being denied access to miscarriage management or whatever, a treatment, and life-saving abortion treatment or whatever. And then she'll relate or show people stuff about Amber Thurman, when Amber Thurman was able to go out of state and get a legal abortion, and she was able to abort her twins. And the abortion pills, because they suffocate and starve the children, and then you like take another pill to expel their bodies, didn't really work out that way. And she ended up getting sepsis, and she was not treated fast enough. And her family says it's malpractice with the hospital. It's not about the pro-life laws, because if it was a pro-life laws, then the hospitals, their hands are basically tied then. So to me, the Democrats are really selfish because they're interfering with this family and their money and their lawsuit, I would say. But that's who she decided to focus on. That's what she decided to focus on. Those kinds of stories and exaggerations and misinformation, propaganda, instead of focusing on these real women who were harmed. And then when Brett Baer brought up some of these parents talking about the border and how their children would be alive if they had done something differently, the most she could say is, "I'm so sorry for her." Not, "I'm sorry that our failed policies resulted in this." There was no, "I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better. I'm going to take accountability. We should take accountability." It was, well, Donald Trump didn't help to get, he killed a border bill that they tried to pass like 3 years after the fact. That ain't got nothing to do with the people who are already in the country. So, to all you surprised that she lost, I don't know why you surprised. Shame on you for being surprised, because if you're surprised, you're probably not very informed. Probably not very informed. I can see you being like, Trump is so bad, but how could he win over? Maybe you're surprised a little bit about the people, how they feel about his moral character or whatever, stuff like that. But to not understand how bad of a candidate she was, and these Democrats not being able to read the room, something's wrong, guys. You're consuming the wrong kind of media. You're consuming the wrong kind of media. Let me switch gears a little bit. I want to show you this quick clip Trump War Room posted on this segment during CBS, I believe, and Meet the Press. Well, they were talking about HHS. There's all this talk about Trump's candidates and whether they be good or bad or whatever. And RFK, I don't have time to go into. I don't love the pick. I don't love the pick. I don't have time to go on the rant that I want to go on. I know people like my rants. I don't have the time today. But I'll just throw out there, I don't love the idea of someone who's okay with full-term abortions being the head of HHS. And I could say other things, but I'll leave it at that right now. But these Democrats and these journalists and these shills are going around upset about the lack of qualifications and, Trump's folks picks being so out there. Now, mind you, the assistant health secretary is a trans woman, a super obese, gross looking trans woman, and has done some radical things, said some radical things during his tenure, but also, during COVID, got his mother out of the nursing home, because he knew it was dangerous while they're mixing nursing home patients with COVID patients. So that's a kind of person that you don't want to fail upwards, but they did let him fail upwards, mostly, I would assume, because he's trans. Okay. So, but the actual health assistant secretary doesn't have a background in health, which this person on the panel does point out, and that's why the Trump War Room posted this.
We have seen nominations before from presidents of both parties where there have been ethical and substantive issues. Let's not forget, we had a nominee for HHS secretary in this administration who had never dealt with healthcare before being nominated. So I think that the notion that
I'm not here to defend. He was the attorney general for the state of California. This is a little bit of a different.
He experienced suing healthcare companies, but not anything to do with healthcare. We have seen nominations before.
Tongue-tied Jen. If you guys don't recall, Jen Psaki was the former press secretary for the Biden administration. So she is part of the nonsense. But yeah, Becerra, is that, I think that's how you say his name. I'm not sure. I think that's how I always say it. I'm not sure if that's how you actually say it. The current HHS secretary, and he did not have experience. As he said, he sued different companies or whatever. That doesn't mean he has experience in it, you know. But I thought many of Biden's picks were, you know, I think some of Trump's picks are like kind of bleep you, like flicking people off to the establishment, the Democrats and so on. You know, they're meant to cause disruption. Like they're meant to cause real change in the fabric of how government is done. And he ran to be a disruptor or whatever, not to do politics as usual, or whatever. And, you know, Biden was like, I'm going to, you know, be like the normal person, which he wasn't. And Trump is like, I'm going to reform a lot of stuff. We're going to mix some stuff up. Like we need to have a change, and people wanted the change agent. And so, you know, a lot of people are he's ruffling some feathers, like with the Matt Gaetz, for example, Pick and other stuff like that, Tulsi and Kennedy. But it's funny with Kennedy because he's the man is still a Democrat, and you know he's one of them, and they're so upset about it. But Becerra, I think he was rewarded for suing the Little Sisters of the Poor. Like, that's what I think he was rewarded for. You know, and I'm like, are they trolling us with some of these picks, with Biden's picks? So it's just really rich that they're complaining about some of these folks. And Scott Jennings from I think it was Scott Jennings on CNN. Let me see if I can find that. He went on a longer tirade about that, where he explained that other people before had like a lack of experience and in health and so on. So Trump does have some good picks in here. And I do have some issues with RFK. And I do have issues with Gates too. But they're just hypocrites, though. That's what I just can't stand about politics, are the lies. Like Jen Psaki has to know that there's so many unqualified people who Biden put in different positions. Do you think Pete Buttigieg was a right person for like Secretary of Transportation? You know, like what gave you that idea? I can't find the Scott clip. I don't know if I retweeted it or anything. I don't see it. I don't think I bookmarked it, guys. But yeah, but he just let it be known that there's a history of people not having the kind of qualifications that they claim that all the Trump nominees need to have. It's just hypocritical. It's just hypocritical. Anyway, that's where I'm going to let you guys go today. We have plenty more to talk about tomorrow. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. You guys can also support by checking out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com at the store. So I recommend you guys check out different stuff. You guys can also like go on Amazon, check out different books and stuff that I have. like, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. I mentioned a little bit about, like, I talk about the Turnaway study and other stuff like that. And I do have that, actually, that C.S. Lewis quote in this book too, about how we are actually too weak in our desires, and we make decisions and choices that ultimately lead us to harm because we can't imagine a better future. And to get back on that subject just a little bit, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, you have Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama and Pete Buttigieg and all these folks talking about how you're going to ruin your life if you have a baby, if you have your child. And when you're looking at the, the lines on the pregnancy test and you're flipping out and you can only think about how you can't do it, you begin to just put a curtain around the future that you could have. And so instead of people saying you can do it, you are more than a conqueror, you're more than able to overcome, people rallying around and saying, I'm going to support you, or hey, we're going to rally around and get you all these resources, or if you feel that you can't, you're strong enough to endure for 9 months, and we're going to make sure that we set up a good adoption plan and that they get into a loving home. Instead of doing those things, there's a rush from the abortion lobby and these activists and these politicians to say, hey, go ahead, have the abortion totally unobstructed, it's your right to do so. But we celebrate this really evil choice that is not only harmful to the child, but it's harmful to the woman, and it's wrong. And the reality is, if we actually banned it, we still need medical access for people who need miscarriage management. We still need access for, like, ectopic pregnancies. Those are not abortions. We still need to make sure that if there's some kind of medical emergency, that the woman and the child are both, treated, and you try to do what's humane for both parties involved. The situation, my thing is, if both can live, both should live. That's not always a possibility, but you do your best, in a triage situation, right? So we want to make sure that all that stuff is available. But as far as having the option to deliberately unalive your child due to circumstances where they both can live, but you think life is too hard, you think your financials are too hard, maybe you're in an abusive relationship and stuff, we need to be able to help people see the possible bright future with their child in it, as opposed to just celebrating them not being around, the child being killed, and just having the freedom to make a choice rather than talking about what you ought to do. So and even if you don't talk about legal stuff, people get mad when you talk about what you ought to do, which is pretty wild. But we'll have to go more into that another day. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow. God bless.